Hey everyone, my name's Harry Sherwood, and if you're watching this video, something about the Facebook ad or however you got here struck a chord. It rang the bell. For some reason, you're here today, and so I'm going to do my best to provide you with an amazing next 40 minutes. As you know, I believe in magic, true magic, wizard magic. And it took me a long time to be able to admit that to the world. I mean, as you might imagine, it's kind of a statement, especially nowadays. And as you also know from the ad, that belief in magic has led me to traveling the world, living with monks, yogis, martial arts masters, led me to practicing thousands of hours of meditation, to getting a degree in consciousness studies, to meeting fascinating and amazing people who also believe in magic, who practice some really cool stuff, and to forming my own company. And so I'm going to walk you through that journey today, here and now. And I really just want to impress upon you that this is something that I love, I enjoy. So I'd love for you to spend the next approximately 40 minutes with me. I'm going to try to get you out of here as soon as possible while providing you with the most value. If you do see me look down, I have a couple notes here. I just want to make sure I get everything in. Now, I want to acknowledge each and every one of you for being here today. If you are here, we're of the same tribe, the same family, same soul family, we're kindred spirits, whatever you want to call it. We vibe with the same stuff. And so I'm really excited to have you here. And I do want to provide you with value. And I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time either. So I'm looking forward to having some fun here today. And I'm just going to be telling you my story. We're just going to be kind of hanging out. And hopefully it really provides a ton of value. Now, as I said, I'm a co-founder of consciously.org, where we educate people in holistic health and conscious lifestyle coaching. And what that really means is that we help people connect with their deepest dreams, their deepest sense of self, and bring those to the surface. And we do accountability coaching, we do healing sessions, we do a ton of things to help bring that about. And as I share my story, I want to leave you with one strong takeaway here today to ignite the power of wonder and imagination back in your life again. Maybe it's still there, maybe it's not. For someone like me, it was probably discouraged to keep believing that anything was possible due to our society, our culture, our friends, whoever it was. And I want to reignite how powerful wonder and imagination are. And then I also want to give you some tools and specifically talk about passionate action. And we'll get into what that really means, but how unleashing our infinite potential has to be done with passionate action. And that's what I want to leave you with. And before we get going, I want to set one ground rule here today, that you play full out, that you give this your all. I know how easy it is to get split focus nowadays with Facebook ads and Instagram and fill in the blank with 100 things you could be doing, and which is why I honor you for being here today. But if you're here, be here. Just be here. Listen with your whole heart. If I ask you to do something, ideally you do it. Ideally you actually put some energy and effort into thinking about, he asked me to think about a dream or to think about things that I can do to achieve that dream. Really do that. I mean, if you're going to spend your time here, why not get the most out of it? And on the other side of that, I also understand the fear of judgment. Judgment of what others might think of you if you're watching this video. Judgment of yourself if you watch this video. I've been there. I've been in meditations where I was like, what am I doing here? But then more and more as I kind of got out of that mindset, because I realized that's not me. I'm the one who wants to be here. I'm the one who's curious, passionately curious. That other voice comes from somewhere else. And so wherever it comes from, have the courage to suspend doubt here today, because if you can, that's how we play in the realm of infinite possibility, which is pretty powerful. I spent a long time trying to fit in. I spent a long time trying to be a part of the crowd. I'm the youngest of three brothers. My oldest brother has been what's known as a chronic relapser. He has been in and out of AA, rehabs, halfway houses, sober livings, fill in the blank. He's been there. And he just can't quite seem to get out of that cycle. And when I was 11, that was the first time he went away. My other brother, he was headed down the same route. Now, fortunately in life, he didn't go down that route. My dad was a workaholic, and even when he was home, his mind was still at work. And I was left without that male role model that I thought that I needed. And as a result, I felt lost. And so I kind of just grabbed onto anything that I could, which wound up being friends in football. I played sports a lot when I was younger, specifically football. And those friends in football, we were glued at the hip from the second I joined all the way through the end of high school. And so that became my male role model, my male peer group. And as a result, I had to hide part of myself. I had to hide the part of myself that loved magic, that believed in magic. Only a little part of my puzzle piece fit in, which it did. I'm very much a competitive person. I love sports. I love all of those things, but the larger part of myself had to hide. And it honestly wasn't until after the end of high school that I was really able to start breaking out of it, because I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the courage to be myself, to show the world, show my friends myself, because what if they didn't accept it? You know, I was there. It was my refuge. What if I was left behind? And so I was afraid of judgment, afraid of ridicule, afraid of what they might think if, you know, they kind of learned the true me. And it wasn't until after high school that I really got into that. So this is just another quick story of reiterating courage to be you, to watch the things you want to watch, to be the person you want to be. I get it. I get how hard that can be, and I get how crippling the fear of judgment can be, but I can tell you how amazing it feels to let that go. And what I learned along walking that same route of fitting in was I've now been down that road. I've been down the normal society road. I've been down the same old. What are you doing today? Same old. I've been there, and you know what? I don't like it. And so the more we play full out here today, the more you might just walk away with that one thing that changes your life. Think about that. Think about what if. We're going to talk about what if a lot. What if your engagement here today was the exact thing that you needed, the exact thing you've been waiting for to begin to live the life of your dreams, or if you're already in that process, to expand it, to blow it up. That's pretty powerful. So let's talk about wonder. Let's get into some fun stuff. Wonder is my thing. I love it. One of the greatest tragedies in life is when we lose our belief that anything is possible. Without true amazement, wonder, and belief in the unknown, building our dreams, bringing them out, experiencing magic is forever going to be limited. So let's rewind. Let's go back to my childhood, to before my brother went off to boarding school, to a time that I inherently just believed. I believed in magic. Wizards, aliens, superpowers, angels, Goku. Goku from Dragon Ball Z was my jam. That was a huge part of my childhood. I always really wanted Goku's abilities, and maybe some of you totally identify with that. Maybe some of you don't even know who he is. He was awesome. And on top of that, my mom had books of animal spirits, spirit guides, all different types of Native American stuff. So I was introduced to this other thought process, the other belief system at a young age. And they were just all imaginative sources, or so I was told. And at the time, I didn't understand that I actually believed these things. It was much more, I was that kid that just believed that anything was possible. At least I wanted anything to be possible. I was the kid that if you were to walk up and be like, hey, I know how to fly, I'd be like, teach me. Why haven't you told me before? That was me. I was the one who wanted to just be in a place of infinite possibility. And as I got older, though, the world kept telling me that these things weren't real. That magic was all in the imagination. That anything mystical wasn't scientific, so therefore it didn't exist. And it wasn't until later in my life that I saw how limited that thinking was and how that was its own belief system. But I was a kid. I was malleable to that current paradigm. So after a while, I stopped believing that Merlin was going to come into my life and save me from the mundane world without magic. I stopped believing that I was going to somehow transform into a Super Saiyan like Goku. And that was crushing. But thankfully, there was a part of me that never stopped believing that anything was possible. And although I consciously let go of those things, every time I saw a movie with magic in it, say it was a Harry Potter or something like that, a part of me lit up, just lit up with wonder. Alone, sometimes I would think, were all of these fairy tales or stories just imagination, or could there be something else to it? Like, the truth was hiding in plain sight. There was a part of me that never stopped believing that just beyond the next turn, just around the next corner, there was something magnificent and majestic just waiting to be discovered. That's a beautiful way to live. But it was this feeling and this yearning that kept me feeling like a stranger in a crowd. It was this feeling that once someone made fun of magic or scoffed at it, which just most people, if they ever find out you actually believe it a little bit more than just it being fake, do, I would feel wounded or attacked somehow. And it was unsafe to be myself around them, which was another reason that I felt suffocated in high school. It was another reason that I felt so fearful during that time in my life. And then I wasn't honoring that voice inside me, that feeling inside me that told me I'm meant for so much more. And as I left high school, I did begin to distance myself from that social life that I had known. And bit by bit, as that happened, as I gave it room to breathe, the wonder grew louder. And I asked myself, what if? The power of what if is fantastic. What if there is something more? What if all of those things are real? And just like I asked you to play full out here today, that level of possibility, that ability to change your life, I was returning to living in that world like I was when I was a child. And it wasn't long after that I went to Self-Realization Fellowship, which was this temple in Southern California. And it's a nonprofit spiritual organization founded by a yogi from India way back in 1920. And as I walked in, the monk/pastor was talking about meditation and all these amazing things that it could do. He talked about this deep union of consciousness with all things, and how this wasn't just some concept, but we could experience it in this life. And the thing that I really liked about him, well, two things I really liked about him. One is he said, don't believe me. Go and find out for yourself. I would not be a monk here today if I didn't know that this was true. And the cooler part about it was that he looked like a wizard. He had the full-blown long hair tied back in a ponytail and the long white beard. Loved it. Loved it. And as I was leaving, there was a packet near the exit that said undreamed of possibilities. And so at this point, I'm just like, so many feelings going through me, excitement, relief. It just was such a beautiful moment in my life. I wanted to grab someone near me and be like, you're all crazy like me. Because I always felt crazy. Everyone made me feel crazy. And that wonder was growing louder again. And so as I got more into meditation and that world that I had so longed to be a part of, the crazier and crazier I looked to everyone around me, or at least to most people, especially my friend group. I started talking about wanting to travel and live with monks and go experience amazing things to me. And it started to create a distance. And I started taking down all the beer boxes we had posted up in high school and replacing them with quotes from Gandhi and Yogananda and Babaji and all these names that most people can't pronounce. I was exposing myself, my true self, to my friends. And a part of me that they hadn't seen before. And it created distance. And they began thinking that I was changing, which in a way I was, because of the way that I showed up all those years. But they thought I was losing it, honestly. And it made it harder for us to connect. And in no time, this came from all angles. Not just from my friends, from parents, from peers, from people I didn't even really know. If they got wind of what I was doing, they thought me strange. And so it was a very challenging time in my life. I'd spent the last 10 years trying to fit in, doing everything I could to fit in. And I was finally showing people who I was, and I was no longer fitting in anymore. Which is another reason that it's been taking me so long to be on camera, talking to you one-on-one, but also talking to a very large group of people saying, I believe in magic. It's something that most people just don't even believe. Don't even believe that someone could believe that. Which is a shame, because it's awesome. And the hardest part about all that was that I genuinely, and still to this day, loved that friend group. I just needed some distance. And a large part was the mentality, the lifestyle, and the Western culture and society. So about 6 months later, I left for China. I went to the Yuntaishan Cultural and International Martial Arts School and studied Tai Chi with Shaolin monks. I can't tell you how good it finally felt to go on my own mystical quest. Sitting on the airplane en route to China, I did it. I took the leap. I went for it. I finally pursued that voice inside of me telling me to go on an adventure. I finally honored the what if and the wonder in the unknown. It was amazing. The feeling was amazing. However, along with that leap, I took a lot of expectations along with me as well. I quickly learned that this land that I dreamed of and what I had imagined my quest was gonna be was far from what I actually experienced. It wasn't full of mystical mountains and martial artists with superpowers and magic just waiting for me, which is kind of what I thought. I was still me, still the same person as I left, same habits, same quirks, same dreams. And China it was far different than what I thought it was. However, along the way, I had little experiences that I took as signs that I was on the right path and that were truly magical and phenomenal. So for instance, when I arrived in China and after I got settled into my room and everything, I went to the Tai Chi group. There was Tai Chi, Kung Fu, Sanda, different martial arts focuses. And it was a small group of international students, and this lady from Britain who was about 50 just talked my ear off the entire time that I met her, from the moment that I met her. But the one thing she said just after we got instructions and we began to practice Tai Chi was, just wait, super giddy. She goes, soon you'll feel Harry Potter at your fingertips. And I laughed and I concealed my excitement at how awesome that felt, because that's what I'd done. I wasn't fully used to showing people how much magic geeked me out. And the coolest part is by the end of that first training session, which I don't remember how long it was, maybe an hour or a couple hours, a small and faint magnetic force was kind of like a force field was around my hands, and I could feel it. And it felt like every movement that I made, my hands were flowing through water or some sort of energy field. And that was really the beginning of my world turning upside down. And it was the universe's way of being like, hey, here's your magic, now experience this thing. Except it didn't last very long. And other than that, in many sprinkled moments, tons of sprinkled moments along the way, none longer than a deep breath. Very short. My time in China was not the profound journey that I was looking for. There were glimpses, but nothing that was lasting. But it wasn't until that I returned home from China and I was a few weeks away from part 2 of my quest, my journey, that I realized that what I was looking for, it wasn't going to be found outside of me in some magical land. I wasn't going to walk through some wardrobe into Narnia as much as I wanted to. The magic moments that I experienced in China were experienced when I was fully present, when I was here and now, to whatever I was doing, and I wasn't trying to find it somewhere else in some mystical mountain, which was huge. That was a big lesson. And so the next leg of my journey led me to living with monks and yogis at the SRF, Self-Realization Fellowship Ashram, and this was in Southern California, and I stayed there for about 6 months. This time I was going to go on with a slightly different perspective. I was going within. I wasn't going to look for things without. I was going to dive deep within, which was the perfect place to do it. And so the next 6 months, they were full of deep meditation, of service, and of contemplation. And I got to know myself on a deeper level than I ever had before. During that time, I had a ton of profound experiences. And one that comes to mind was I was leaving a meditation. It was about 90 minutes to 2 hours. And I was walking up this grassy hill. And this ringing coming from inside of my head was getting louder, and it sounded kind of like one of those singing bowls or like a gong, but it was getting louder and louder. And as I was walking, each step I took, it felt like there was a magnet pulling the bottom of my feet into the ground until I couldn't move. And as that happened, my sense of self started to merge with my surroundings. and it felt like I was so much larger than just this human body. And as this happened, I looked around, and the greens from the grass and the trees and the blues from the sky and the brown from the bark and the dirt was more vivid than I had ever seen before. And in fact, it was as if I was seeing it for the first time, experiencing this presence for the first time as the deepest, most deeply connected I had ever felt up until that time. It was truly profound. And these experiences were happening more and more. And they were pulling back the veil to another side of life, to another type of reality, to something that with our normal five senses we don't just pick up on every day. And these are things I'd only dreamt of or read about or heard of, but I was starting to experience them. One thing that they talked about in the ashram, which was amazing, was the yogic siddhis. Now, the siddhis are more or less superpowers gained by yogis or meditation people that meditate as they dive into higher states of consciousness. And these things are like telekinetics, levitation, telepathics, and if you're unfamiliar with those words, mind control of objects, being able to communicate through mind, through energy, levitating your body, flying type things. And that's just to name a few. Things that I believed in as a child, but were told were just stories. And it was around that time that I also read the book, The Autobiography of a Yogi. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. And that's by Paramahansa Yogananda, who founded SRF, who was the yogi that came from India. And he would, during this account of his life, he talked about all these experiences with great mystic yogis and these abilities that they had. It was just another sign telling me I'm on the right track. And with these experiences along the way, my eyes were being opened. My eyes were being widened to a greater reality. It was absolutely phenomenal. And even more important thing that I learned while I was at the ashram was it wasn't magic in particular that I was really seeking. It was a sense of peace and happiness within. Because everything we do on a moment-to-moment basis, in my perspective, is to connect with our deepest sense of self, which is a river of magic, of peace, of happiness. I mean, honestly, no one wakes up and says, I can't wait to be miserable today. It just doesn't really happen. And that's when I realized that my happy place is magic. That the living in the possibility and experiencing the occult is what makes me centered, what lights me on fire, what makes me alive. So after my time at the ashram, I went back to school. I had been in community college for a couple years, coaching football, doing business, obviously didn't like it very much. So I went back to school. I transferred to the University of Michigan, and I got a degree in religious studies. And the reason I call it a consciousness studies degree is because I put my own twist on it. And I studied sociology of religion, I studied the philosophy of it, I studied psychology around it, but specifically psychology and spiritual development. And in there I did some parapsychology, which is kind of like the super normal. One of my professors, while I was at the university, he introduced me to a book by Russell Targ about remote viewing. And remote viewing is ESP, extrasensory perception, being able to see things outside of myself, maybe even on the other side of the world. While sitting in a room meditating. And Russell Targ had been a part of the CIA for 30 years. And he talked about all the different programs that he had in there and all the things that they would use remote viewing for. Now, the CIA probably doesn't use anything for 30 years unless it works. And it was just an amazing account. I highly recommend learning about Russell Targ. Other books I read by Dean Radin, by Lynn McTaggart, by a ton of different leading either researchers or scientists in the field of anything from quantum physics to parapsychology to there's a lot of amazing studies being done on consciousness and how there seems to be this unified field of energy and consciousness that connects all of us. And these are scientists. These aren't just yogis and monks. And it really, the deeper we dive into that in the quantum world, the more it challenges our current paradigm of science, which is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. These were university professors showing me these books, introducing me to these things. We actually did some remote viewing while I was in college. And I learned how serious scientists are seriously studying the yogic siddhis, or as I like to call it, magic, which is just absolutely phenomenal. absolutely phenomenal. And the dream was getting louder, louder and louder and louder. And I had already experienced some pretty amazing things. So I went further down the rabbit hole. After graduating college and leaving with a deeper sense of wonder, I realized something that it was super important on my journey. I realized that I was in the act of living my dream. I hadn't even realized it until a couple years into my journey because I thought it was supposed to look a certain way. That's the subtlety of life. And there's that expectation again, right? I didn't realize I was on my true quest. I didn't realize I was on my own journey. I was in my own folktale because it didn't feel any different than life. I was still me. The world was still the world. And that was that. Even with all the mystical experiences up to that time, I'd almost missed how magical my story was and that moment was because of that expectation. Wake up, Harry. You're an explorer. You're living it right now. And that goes for each and every one of you. The longer we wait for our lives to happen, the longer we don't realize that it's already happening, that you're already writing your own story, which is phenomenal. And it gives you the reins so much more so than a lot of people, I think, take credit for. We all have the ability to make our lives amazing. So on my way back from college, I drove cross country and I had a meeting with the founder of a really successful company out in Colorado. My dad had met him a few years before, said, hey, you absolutely have to meet him. This was an attempt of my dad's to get me to not become a monk because in a few months I was heading back to the ashram to possibly stay for the rest of my life. And I was heavily leaning towards that. But my dad thought me hearing this man's story of how he was very intensely and deeply spiritual in his spiritual life, but also running this really amazing company might inspire me to do the same, which it kind of did. It worked. But upon meeting this guy, I'm going to keep him anonymous for privacy's sake, I was deeply intrigued with his lifestyle. He had spent several years secluded up in the mountains of Colorado, meditating for hours a day. And all of this happened while he was either running a company before he ran the company. And since I was a part of the conversation, the dialogue obviously went to talking about magic. And I asked him, do you think that the world is ready to experience or to be aware of the profound abilities talked about in the ancient texts? And as fascinating as his answer was, the more profound part came when he told me that he had been able to start a fire with his mind at one point. He had performed one of the CDs, which is Pyrokinetics. He told me that he spent, after months of meditating up there, sat down one day and he said, I wanted to see if I could do it. And he spent 4 hours staring at kindling and wood to no avail. He didn't reach it. Now, some of you, to tune into 4 hours, that is a very long time to stare at one thing that isn't moving. I mean, I'm sure some of you have already checked your watch once or twice being here. 4 hours straight. And so he didn't do it. The next day he sits down for 4 hours straight again. And he said at the end of it, the kindling showed smoke and the wood caught fire. The most profound part about his entire story wasn't that he had achieved this, but it was his presence that he brought to the conversation. He told me that he knows he can do it and that anyone can do it. It's will they? And he spoke with such conviction, such authority. It was one that I'd only experienced of the elder monks at the ashram had ever spoken with, that I've ever heard. They know because they know. He really had done it. And it was amazing. His presence was amazing. All right. Before I continue on with my story and my journey, and hopefully you're having a good time right now, maybe I've challenged some beliefs of yours, or maybe you're just super excited with everything that I'm talking about. I want each of you to take a few moments, and I want you to identify your what if. So take out a piece of paper and a pen, or type on your computer, or just do it in your head, whatever works for you. I know we all work differently. You've heard a lot about my story and a lot about my what if, but what about yours? And it doesn't need to be anything like mine. It can be anything, so it also can be mine. Just make sure that it's something that if anything was possible, anything, what would you be most excited about? What would make you most excited? What possibility would light you on fire and ignite your dreams. So write down just one word to describe your what if. You don't have to show it to anyone. Mine's magic, and I'm now telling it to the world. Yours can be family, it can be wealth, happiness, it could be flying, it could be God, it could be healing, becoming a healer or healing something within yourself. And you can even pause the video and take a few moments. And I want to also give you a couple assignments with this. So your first assignment after this video is that I want you to spend time getting clear on your word. Your one word, your one what if. That word holds volumes in it. It holds adventure, it holds possibility, and it holds wonder. It should really excite you. It should really excite you to not only write it down, but to really dive into it. A good place to start if you struggle to pinpoint it is finding, what do you love to do most behind closed doors? When I was younger, my brothers and I would try to walk off couches and walk on air and just totally not work and faceplant, but we still had fun with it. We tried to levitate each other with like 2 fingers each and just try to see if we could lift each other up. Never worked. I mean, honestly, to this day, I stare at stones trying to move them telekinetically for hours. And that's a little crazy. That's some craziness. What's your craziness? What do you do behind closed doors? Or what do you want to if anything was possible? What's your flavor of crazy? It's fun to get in there. Without judging it, it's really fun to be there. All right, at this point, a question I'm often asked is, okay, so how do I get from what if and dreamer to creating a reality around it? So we talked about wonder quite a bit. Now let's talk about that passion and action that I brought up in the beginning. Aimless action, just doing something to do it, it's often fruitless and discouraging. And inaction only guarantees tomorrow that we're going to be in the same place we are today, or maybe even a step behind. Taking purposeful and passionate action is the most powerful way to make sure your dreams come to life. So let's go ahead and let's skip ahead to, in my story a bit, to after I left the ashram for the second time. So I went back to the ashram for another 4 months, decided not to become a monk, experienced some more amazing things, but decided if it's all the same, I want to do this in the world, and came back out. Now, when I left, I wanted to focus on things that I love. And like I told you before, I was a football coach, so I wanted to become a health coach. And I learned a lot about nutrition and being vegetarian in the ashram along the way. So I started teaching and guiding meditations, and I got a few certifications in sports nutrition, sports performance, nutrition, and different things. I found myself at a few different CrossFit gyms after that, and yoga studios, coaching classes, getting one-on-one clients. And around this time, I met Melanie McDaniel, who is my partner in life and my partner in Consciously. She's the other co-founder. She is awesome. She and I both had dreams of creating this a world with infinite possibility, with magic, spirituality, holistic health in it. And at the time, the best way we thought to do it was probably creating a company, some way that we can reach larger amounts of people, because we had those one-on-one coaches. We just hadn't found the right way to do it yet. However, sometimes life has other plans. And over the next few years, Melanie, she went through a lot of healing from abuse in her life and emotional trauma that happened in her past. And I was the first place that she was actually able to land and actually go deep into her healing process, because quite often it's not really safe to do that out in the world with all the judgment that we've been talking about so much. And honestly, I had no idea what to do. This level of trauma was not in my reality before this. I could only hold the space for her to do her own work. I did my best. I helped her step deeper into the non-traditional approach to healing, which she was already familiar with. She'd done a lot of the Western type and normal modalities, and just wasn't her style. It didn't work for her as much. But now she was able to step into the natural and energetic ways of healing in a deeply serious, safe way. And during that time, I continued to hone in on my coaching skills and share what I love. But since we live in the world that we do, once again, I allowed the world to kind of come in and constrict my wonder, my beliefs about making money. Being a CrossFit coach and a personal trainer, it isn't the most lucrative of professions. Now, that doesn't matter, but to me it did at the time. I was programmed at a young age that success is equated with financial success. My dad was a successful businessman, and the culture I grew up reinforced that. So even after spending all my time at the ashram, diving deep into myself, getting super healthy and on point with my health, following my dreams, and I mean, honestly, a laundry list of things that I was doing, thumbs up, I was doing really well, I still didn't feel successful because of my financial situation. Some of you, if not all of you, might identify with that a little bit. And I'm deeply grateful to have been practicing meditation up until that time, because the anxiety started to roll back, started to come in again. It helped me mentally, meditation helped me mentally deal with that. I believed that lie, that money equated to my worth, and no matter how much value I brought to myself and to other people, I inevitably just didn't feel like I was enough. And there was that feeling again, that constricted feeling, the anxiety. It just had a different face on this time. It was that feeling that made me feel like I wasn't on some quest, that was all BS, and that I was just telling myself that I was just fooling myself, and I was just someone else trying to make some money. And it almost became that way. That's how strong it was. It's amazing how easy it is to feel inadequate when we measure ourselves to someone else's standards. The stress and anxiety that filled me up was based upon trying to please someone else, not myself. It wasn't a part of my dreams. So at that time, Melanie and I, we started to sell home cleaning units, and on the side to make some extra money. Now I want to say I actually really enjoyed the home cleaning. I didn't like selling them and whatnot, but I enjoyed the home cleaning units because they taught me a lot about the health of indoor air. But it was coming from a place of lack, a place of trying to make more money and operating, and that I was operating in, and we weren't passionate about it. And as time passed while we were selling home cleaning units, Mel would go through months of being fine, being good, followed by literally months of being out of commission. If you've ever seen someone or is someone who's been through some deep healing, it is sporadic and you can't really control it. And that mixed with my feelings of being not enough and the anxiety around that, it stood in our way of pulling the trigger of creating that business that we wanted to bring magic and spirituality and holistic health into the world. And it stood in the way of my dreams. And we did amass more experience and knowledge over those years that we didn't pull the trigger. But there's a difference between knowledge and action. And we were just getting caught in analysis paralysis. We need to do X, Y, and Z beforehand, and it was just all excuses. And we were waiting for the perfect moment to take action. But the more that we were in a place of waiting, the longer we stayed there. The longer we just became, we're not ready. And sometime after Mel had overcome her trauma, she went through a couple years of really deep intense, and she'd come out of it. Now, there's a level of stuff that always is there, but the large majority, that the intensity of it had passed. We began to get into real estate, another side thing, try to make some more money. We started learning about investing, and we joined different mastermind groups and networking groups. And a few months after joining one of the masterminds, I was already not enjoying real estate. Once again, it was out of I need more money. Someone in the group on a retreat that we went to asked me what I do. And after I said, I'm a fitness and I'm a health coach, and I'm also in real estate investing. And he said, okay. Well, and after a couple more questions, he said, sounds like you got a foot in both worlds and you need to make a decision on which one you have a future in. That hit me hard. He was right. I'd come to this fork in the road, and Mel and I, we needed to make a decision. Was I going to leave my quest behind in the pursuit of a life with money as my compass? That's a question that a lot of us need to ask ourselves, and a lot of us are faced with all the time. Or was I going to follow my what if and continue to roll the dice? But we roll the dice either way. The dream was getting louder again. I started to feel it come up. And regardless of the fear, the doubt, the worry, the stress, the anxiety that came towards creating this business with Mel, there was adventure. There was excitement. There was the wonder of waiting for my quest to continue. And the best part is that when I returned home, Mel actually didn't go on that retreat with me. She was in the same place. She was like, I'm kind of done with real estate, and it was perfect. And we were ready to build our company. And so a few months, several months of passionate action, of creativity, of building, and mostly all of our money spent, consciously.org was born. We took all of the knowledge and experience that we had amassed and we poured it into this company. We created a 90-day plant-based nutrition program, 90-day meditation program to help really build their holistic health, because health is a foundation in life that we need. We started doing high-level personal coaching. Melanie has a 9-month intensive healing program for anyone and everyone. You don't need to have trauma in your past. It's amazing if you do. But for anyone and everyone, I started doing higher-level coaching and the conscious lifestyle coaching that I do now, which is where I help people dive deep within spiritually and just find how to bring out that what if and create a lifestyle around it. And as we did this, and as we've continued to do this, people's lives were being changed. We were seeing a higher level of impact. People had found through us a higher level of health, of healing, and experienced deeper connections with their self. And the reason I bring this up is because this helped me realize that, money's a part of life. It is, but it's not just about money. And it sounds funny because I told myself that for years and I knew that conceptually, but this really, really helped me step into how much of service being and living in my truth is. The more important thing is that, and I want each one of you to hear this really deeply, is that someone out there right now, and probably more than just one person, is waiting for you to share your magic with the world, is waiting for you to stand up in front of a camera and say, I believe in magic, is waiting for you to touch their lives. And I really saw that for the first time. And it had a deep impact on me. It was amazing. And we also didn't see what we were doing as work. I believe that work is doing something when I'd rather be doing something else. I'll say that again. Work is doing something when I'd rather be doing something else. I no longer work because I love what I do. Yes, there are a lot of things with creating a business that are not fun, like accounting, but I was passionately acting because it's my business and I'm able to help people with that. And since starting the company, we've had an amazing amount of challenges and of complications. One thing that happened to us was when we were masterminding and brainstorming about, hey, what do we want to name our company? We want to, be conscious or, conscious connections, whatever we started looking at. And we were looking at domain names. And when we found consciously, it was available. So we purchased the .com, the .net, and the .org. And it wasn't until months later that we had our logo ready to go. We had people building our website that they came to us and they said, hey, by the way, you spelled consciously wrong. And so when we went and looked, consciously.com was nowhere to be found. .net was $10,000 and .org was $3,000. Needless to say, that was a challenge and one of many. Following your dreams, it's not all rainbows and sunshine. It can be challenging. It will come with challenges. Life does. And just like I learned in China, but that's life. And wouldn't you rather be walking your own quest when those things come up rather than living someone else's dream? Because they're going to come up anyway, maybe differently, but that's just a part of life. So here's my last assignment for you. After you dive into the word and you really get clear on your what if, I want you to write down 3 action steps. 3 things that you can take passionate action towards achieving that dream, or at least bringing it into your life somehow, some way in the next week. Just in the next week. Got to start somewhere, right? They don't have to be amazingly huge things. Some of them can be, but 3 things that are going to get the party started, so to say, get it moving. So, it could look like what do you need to research? What book do you need to purchase and read? Who do you need to talk to? And from there, my advice is to find a coach. Find someone who's reached either the goal that you're looking for or a similar goal, who's reached their dreams, whatever it is. And have them hold you accountable to it. Pay them if you have to. Your dreams are worth it. And a quick tip on finding a coach is that their goal should not to always be your coach. If you have the same mentor for over 20 years, they might not be doing something right. I mean, they might be amazing, don't get me wrong, but they also might not be producing. So make sure you're always growing with whoever you're with. They're always expanding your consciousness, or at least always holding you accountable to you being you. I've joined tons of masterminds, and I've left after 6 months. Usually not before then. I like to really give it a chance, but walked away saying I should have listened to my gut, my intuition, and known that that just wasn't for me. So feel it out. Another important thing is to find a support system. Who in your life do you support to tell your dreams to? Your entire dreams. And they will, no matter what they are, they can give you advice if needed, but that's what your coach is for. A support system that has your back no matter what. And it doesn't need to be a group. It can be a single person. You might not even know that person yet. I have a few different support systems. So here's a deeper question. Who can you give support to in your life? Can you hold that space, that no judgment space? If someone were to tell you their dreams, you'd be able to just simply hear them and support them without vomiting your own beliefs and thoughts all over them. Can you simply hold that space for someone? Now, some of you may be thinking, okay, Harry, what happened to the magic? Do you still believe in magic? What happened to that part of the story? And it was my belief in magic and my pursuit of it that has led me on this amazing journey in life. It took me to studying some of the most fascinating science that the world is studying today. It has helped me stay true to my dreams and not give up on them. It's led me to forming amazing relationships with amazing people, truly amazing people. It's continued to open the door, pull back the veil to wonder in my life. It's helped consciously be born. It's been the driving force, the what if, the fire in my life. Most importantly, it's been my greatest teacher. The more I've pursued it, the more I've gone deep within myself, and the more I've learned about myself and life. So the answer is yes. In fact, I've never believed in magic more strongly than I do now. I stare at stones and inanimate objects every single day, and I'm telling you, I'm very close. I'll just leave it at that. And I will also tell you that it's one of my goals to begin to teach magic, telekinetics, and these paranormal things, these yogic siddhis, at consciously.org. It's my goal. I truly and deeply want to bring magic to the world, real magic, wizard magic. And in my own way, I already am. Watching someone change their life, change their health, and begin to believe again, to wonder again, that is true magic. Bringing a little bit of wonder back into someone's life, there's nothing more magical. So yes, I believe in magic, and I believe that you will see me again bringing it to the world. That is me standing in my truth, and that's me owning it and who I am. And if I can do that in front of all of you, imagine what everyone else can do. So I'm going to start wrapping some stuff up. If you identify your true what if, the thing that gets you more excited than anything in life, that lights you on fire, that if you spent the rest of your life pursuing it, you would be happy because you'd be in your happy place, then that's going to be the compass in your life. So it's really important that you do that. And taking passionate action towards your dreams and your goals is an exciting way to not get burned out. I mean, there are times where we do get burned out, we need to slow down a little bit, but action towards something you really don't care about, it's going to be missing that spark of human spirit that it takes for true originality and true creativity. So make sure you're lit on fire. Take that passionate action. Once again, along the way, find a mentor, find someone who's taken their own path, someone to lend advice, to introduce you to people, even if they don't maybe know how to get you all the way there. And it's going to be there for you during the twists and the turns. In any area of your life, if you have a goal, find someone to help you achieve it. You don't need to do this alone. And you'll find some that work for you, and honestly, others that don't. It's a part of the process. At some point, you will need to be the teacher reaching out your hand to someone else and helping them up, being their mentor. It's a pay-it-forward system, and we all need to help each other out. If you're a fellow believer and you've resonated with my story, my journey, and it hasn't bored you to death, I'm deeply grateful that you are who you are, that you're here on earth. You're not alone. I felt alone for so long with this belief, and just know you're not. If you're interested in talking to me further about how to possibly continue learning from me, from my journey, and for us working together, I would love to make that happen. I can help with nutrition, I can help with meditation, diving deep spiritually, finding your dreams, holding you accountable to making them happen. So if you're interested in talking to Melanie about her healing work that she does, which I highly recommend, we can make that happen as well. There's a link below this that you can go ahead and set up a time to talk with me and do a free 30-minute consultation, and just kind of see how we might be a part of each other's journeys going forward. The conversation doesn't need to end here. You can find us in our Consciously community group on Facebook, where it's a private group, but just ask to get some permission to come in and we'll let you in. In the end though, if I never see you again, learning to trust your own intuition and your own heart is the most important thing. If it doesn't feel right to you, whatever it is, change direction. Believe in yourself. Trust yourself enough to make those decisions. Love yourself. Want to be yourself. Want to be you. I genuinely hope that no one walks away from this wanting to be more like me. My hope is that you walk away from my time with you today wanting more than ever before to be you, excited about your what if and excited about what your life could hold. And so I'm going to finish here with my favorite quote. You are the one that you've been waiting for. I much love everyone, and I hope to connect with each and every one of you soon.